Okay, everyone, thank you for joining us July 12th, 2017 for our Fuse training. This is on transaction desk and electronic signatures. It's a really informative, useful tool, so really pay attention to it. This is one I want to get right. I want to get as much information in there as possible. I'm going to try to hold this under 2 hours if possible. It's transaction desk and electronic signatures are going to be the future. So we don't have to use them, and sometimes it's nice to have a paper file and walk around and drive around and get signatures and fax. But if you use this tool right, there's really no driving around. You can do everything in your bunny slippers at home and get signatures done and really get all the paperwork taken care of that way. So let's dive right in, unless anyone has any questions to begin with. As per our rules, everyone's going to be on mute, and then Alex will be monitoring the chat room. So if you guys do have a question or anything like that, he'll let me know and kind of dive right in. Hopefully we don't get interrupted this time. 2 weeks ago we got interrupted. We've got a lot of the phones and the computers off in the office, so I'm hoping that's part of the problem that's been alleviated. But if we do just settle back, we'll have to kind of restart it, and it might take a 5-minute break or something like that. But, okay, so our Fuse training, we've done week 1, week 2, our paperwork. Sales and marketing was 2 weeks ago. We didn't do one last week because of the 4th of July week, and I was on vacation. So it's nice to kind of be back in the hot seat and driving along here. Week 4 in our 8-week training program, electronic transactions and eSignings, setting up, setting up a transaction in transaction desk. We're going to do both setting up the transaction on the listing side and on the selling side, and then adding forms. We'll do a little rundown of the forms that are typical for a transaction, and these forms, they're a little bit different in different markets: Oregon, Idaho, Alabama, Florida. You guys, it's still in there. For example, a financing addendum in Washington State is a separate document, but it's included in the purchase and sale in Idaho and Oregon. And I'm not familiar enough with Florida and Alabama yet, so I don't think we have anyone on here from those markets yet. So adding the forms that you're going to need, a lot of times there's just goofy forms. There's, it could be a county septic addendum that has to be signed and specific to that market. And we're going to avoid those forms. I want to get more into the meat of the forms that are almost part of every transaction, and then maybe even discuss why they're not needed if you're going to alleviate that. And certain markets, for example, like Seattle, an inspection addendum is not a good idea. It's such a hot market that most sellers are doing a pre-inspection, and then you go off of that pre-inspection, and if you don't like what you see, don't make an offer. But it's too hot a market, so sellers are not accepting offers with inspection addendums. But we normally want to keep those in our offers. And then uploading PDFs as part of the transaction. Sometimes people are a little confused. I mean, this is real technology driven. So we're talking about Apple and Microsoft software driving our computers. We're talking about Adobe PDFs. We're talking about the MLS software such as Matrix, or RMLS has their own software, or it could be any number of probably 10 different softwares that are used for MLSs around the country. And Adobe PDFs are pretty simple. But I do have some people ask me sometimes, well, how do I do an Adobe PDF, or how do I start that? So we'll get into that a little bit, and then designing and signing with email and electronic signatures. Again, you could be in Tahiti, your clients could be in Provence. We'll say that for Ingrid, because I think she is in Provence today. But you could be halfway around the world on a beach and shopping in a market and create forms and have your client sign forms and have the whole transaction done with you at the beach. So it's pretty slick in that regard. There's other ethical questions as to why you're doing business at the beach, but we'll leave that for another day. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get into, actually make sure everything else is shut down. Good. I'm going to get into transaction desk. And I do transaction desk primarily because Washington State is where the majority of our agents are, and we have 260 or 70 in Washington State. The Northwest MLS and the Spokane MLS use Transaction Desk. Other like Form Simplicity and other software programs, they're kind of similar. The buttons might be in different areas. The forms might be labeled a little bit differently. You just have to kind of play with it. The key to these things are playing with it. Push all the buttons. Get to kind of figure out and get comfortable with what all the icons mean. I do get frustrated with icons because I would rather read a word than look at an icon and try to figure out what it is. So a lot of icons. It's just kind of the future of technology. I wanted to bring this up right here, though, because it just came up as I opened up Transaction Desk, and it's just an app, and so we always have to assume there's going to be an app with whatever software is coming along. So I'm actually going to download this app later on today, so I've got Transaction Desk on my phone. And if you don't know, you can still do Transaction Desk on a phone. It's just a little more cumbersome. And so they create these apps to filter out a lot of the stuff that can bog down the phone or bog down the application. So it's basically the same thing. It's just cleaned up a little bit for your phone, and it keeps it concise. Okay, so don't show again. I'll get that later. Okay, so on this sucker, we basically, let me get everybody up here. Again, Alex, you let me know if there's a question. This is the broker dashboard. And the broker dashboard is pretty simple. It's for me as a designated broker to be able to see everybody's transactions. So if you look over here, I can see all your transactions. If you do use Transaction Desk in the state of Washington, and I believe I can with Form Simplicity as well in Idaho. I'm not sure about Oregon yet, but we can see everything that you're doing. And it's kind of nice because if you go in there and you're like, hey, can you review this for me? We can. I can just open this up and bam. I could take a look at Greg's. I would impersonate him and I would take a look at his file that way. So, and I can adjust it. I could go into, okay, let's see, we've got East 25th for Greg. I can take a look at his purchase and sale agreement and go, okay, is this good? Are you missing something? What would I do? And so I do that a lot. As you can see, I can go ahead and change any and all of this. So if you do have a question, go ahead and let me know, and I'll just get into your file. Okay. Now, so agent dashboard, so that's his agent dashboard. If I go back here, I will get into, I believe, broker dashboard. No? Oh, I guess I'm in his right now. Maybe it's over here. Oh, wait, maybe down here. Create transaction, no. So welcome to the cumbersome nature of this before, oh, you know what? Maybe I have to go, well, see, this is home. Okay. Completed, get started, create, fax documents, message, lock, unlock, create transaction, upload. Let's see what's over here. Now, let's just go back. We'll use our back arrows. So usually I close out on this. Okay, well, I'm going to get back into it. So I log into, actually that's a good segue. Let's do that because that'll help for those people who are really unfamiliar with it. So here in Spokane and in the Northwest MLS, if you just log into your account, you'll have Paragon or Matrix will be your MLS software, and then Transaction Desk is here. If we go to the Northwest MLS, then if I go here, all I have to do is log in, and there's Transaction Desk right there. So again, they put them in different places. It's not always the same, but at least the software now it almost looks identical to what I was doing, but now I've got all our Northwest MLS agents over here. So pretty slick in that regard. Okay. So, but I'm going to go back to Spokane just because I can use some of my my transactions. So there I am. I'm logged in. I don't really want to go into the MLS, just so you know. This is pretty much what it looks like. I can go in here and view my transactions. I can manipulate the photos and do all that. Transaction desk is primarily for paperwork. So the listings in here and transaction desk is where we do all the paperwork. Okay, so what we want to do, I want to do this as an agent. Show as an agent. So this is just me. These are my personal transactions right here, and all the other stuff I can see for you guys under the broker dashboard. So here I am. I want to create a transaction. Bam. Push that on. Name. We'll do test to let's see. We'll do, what do we want to call this? July test. And is it going to be a residential sale? Is it going to be a residential listing? Is it going to be a rental, manufactured home, multifamily, all of these, farms, condominiums, all of that. So you've got a pretty good list of things you can choose. Most of us are going to do residential listing or residential sale. In this case, let's start with a listing. So let's say somebody calls you up and they say, hey, I want to list my house. Great. This is where we start. We create a transaction here. And then I'm going to go through tax records, because let's say it's never been on the market before, okay? So, and again, I've got to move this thing around a lot because it interferes with my tabs. But if I go to Spokane Assessor, in this case, I click on their website, and you can go to almost any assessor website in the country. Some are really slick. Spokane is very, very good. I love their software. I was just in Washington County in Oregon last night. It was okay, but not as good. King County can be cumbersome. The little ones like Bonner County up in North Idaho is awful. It's like you can't even get any information. So I'm not really quite sure why they do that. But let's take parcel information, okay? And I'll use my house in this case. So that's not enough information. Getting closer, Magnolia. So there's my house. If you guys ever want to visit or you're in the neighborhood, stop by. I will definitely make you an afternoon cocktail. Okay, so there's my house. Again, I got to move this around because it is always in my way. I don't know if you guys can see the chat room, but it goes to the side of my screen and then to the top of it. So it's right in the middle of my tabs, or it's on the right side where I hit search buttons. So I do move it around a lot. But this is my mid-century modern house. Fantastic. Okay. So, and there, right, is the parcel number. That's what I need right now. So in Transaction Desk, they're asking me, hey, do you want to grab a parcel number and use that for records? And yes, I do. So I'm going to paste that right there. And I am going to be the listing agent because I'm going to list my house. Create. Joe Kelly has created a transaction. Voila, here we are. Okay, so we've got residential listing. We've got information on my house. I want to sell it for, let's say, $600,000. I know those of you in Seattle and Portland are laughing, but it's a fairly healthy price here in Spokane. I wish it was worth more. Okay, so I want to list it for $600,000. I've got that. I didn't finish all my details though. Where's my little next button? Here we go. So residential listing, open status, subtype, residential. Listing number, I don't have one yet because the MLS has not generated one yet. And I'll show you that when we go back to the listing. That'll be kind of part of this. Purchase price, we don't have that yet. A listing date, we'll say today. Expiration date, there always needs to be an expiration date on any contract, so we'll say tomorrow. And purchase and sale, we don't have an agreement date, we don't have an offer expiration date, we don't have a closing date or possession date. So we don't have any of that stuff. We can fill that in later. Right now we're just creating this transaction. Okay, good. Now, I think that's saved, that little check mark icon. Okay, so now we've got a transaction. Now I can always go to my dashboard, a little dashboard icon, and there's July test. This is where I can go back to it. So let's say I had to, I got interrupted, my kid broke an arm, which they do a lot. I'm the father of 4 boys who are constantly breaking things, but I had to leave the computer and take a little break. Now I can always come back to it and go, okay, here's the information. Okay, so what do we need? We need to create a listing and we need some forms. Empty. Well, I've got no forms in here. Oh, bad English. The Jesuits will slap me for that. I don't have any forms in here. Okay, statewide forms for the state of Washington. Evergreen State says I can use these forms, same forms in Spokane, Tri-Cities, all over the state. Northwest MLS, Seattle, Tacoma, doesn't matter. Vancouver as well. So residential listing input sheet. Don't really need that. We can do our exclusive sale and listing agreement because we do want that. That gives us the right to list the house. We have the legal right to do so. Listing a house without this form is a no-no. So you can have a client relationship with somebody on the buyer's side and just drive them around, show them houses, all that without paperwork. But you can't list a house without having a listing agreement. And it has to have a start date and an end date. Those are the 2 keys to the contract. Okay, so some of this other information, don't really need it, don't really need it. Third party, farm and ranch, blah, blah, blah. Referral agreement, that's if you want to refer something off to an agent in Texas, use a Form 11 in Washington. Now here's the big one, seller disclosure, improved property. Every property in America needs a seller disclosure. It could be a property information form, seller property information. I mean, just different words on it, but effectively it's that long form that the seller provides to make sure a buyer knows what exactly is right and wrong with the property. Do you have a right to sell it? Are you the owner? Have you lived in it in the past 5 years? Has there been any flooding? Has there been all that kind of stuff? So we want to make sure that we include that when we start a listing because you want to get that from your seller. And what else would I want from them when I'm taking a listing? I don't need the financing addendum or the purchase and sale. That's all when I have a client who wants to make an offer to buy something. Right now, I just want to get the listing done. So in this case, my house is 1968, which means it requires the lead-based paint form. And there it is, 22J. So if it's older than 1978, you're required to have this form. Now again, everyone fills it out the same way, basically don't know, because very few people were around back in the 60s, 50s, 40s, 30s when lead-based paint might have been used, and there's just no way to really tell unless you get a lead-based inspector in there. Identification of utilities, I don't really need that one right now. It's basically just saying that, okay, we're going to identify the utilities. Is it a PUD? Is it city power? What is it? So that the bills can get paid before closing or at closing to make sure the new buyers aren't responsible for any previous obligations. Okay, and that's really about it right now here in Washington State. I mean, all this other stuff is what you would do with a an offer. You know, if you had if it was a short sale, you'd use the short sale addendum with your offer. If it had a septic system and or a well, you would use those addendums with your offer. And you can see here all the different counties: Pierce County, Kittitas, Island, King. So there's different county forms that you're going to need as well. So be careful with that. Pay attention to that. But right now, again, we are just listing the property. Don't really need that. There's the general form, inspection, escalation, feasibility, neighborhood review. Buyer's agency. Now this is one where if you ever get into a situation where you're in dual agency, so you're going to represent both the buyer and the seller, use a form like this or create a form like this where you can basically disclose your agency. Actually, I'm not going to use it right now, but what it very simple form, it basically says we are representing the buyer and the seller, and all parties sign that. So they can't say later on, hey, I didn't realize you were representing me and the other party, and you missed your fiduciary responsibility to me because you feel like they got a better deal. That's where it gets wigged. Everyone gets wigged out, and they contact the state, and they threaten to sue, and the state has to intervene. And so dual agency is legal. We just have to disclose and really make sure we keep everything separate with those two parties. Okay, so we don't need anything else here for right now. So I've got these forms, and I can go in here on the exclusive sale and listing agreement. I typically in Washington use the Spokane one because it's a little easier. Even if I have a listing in Vancouver, Washington, or in Seattle, I think it's a little bit easier for them. But effectively the same thing. We've got a start date, a list date, and we've got me in there. We've got the property address. I guess Joseph and Mary Kelly are the sellers. And we want to make sure that we get the commission in there, and that's the total commission. Okay, whenever someone talks about a commission, it can be a little bit confusing. They're asking, what's your commission that you're charging? And avoid this confusion by really just stating the overall total commission that the listing office is going to charge, and then they're going to give half of that or a percentage of that or some piece of that to the selling office to entice other brokers to bring a buyer. Okay, it can get confusing. Sometimes people are like, hey, I thought you were going to only charge me 3%. Well, that's 3% on the listing side and 3% on the selling side, and they see 6% charge, they get mad. I deal with this stuff a lot, and obviously if they get mad and they're crazy mad, they're coming to me. And so just be very careful about this and make sure that it's a 6% total if you charge full commission. If you're going to reduce it, that's where you would put in, let's say, 5, and then you would still be offering the other cooperating firm 3. Do the math, you get 2. So that's some way to do it, but typically in a typical commission structure, it's 6% of the sales price, and we're offering the cooperating firm 3%. The initial each page always has to be initialed. You can always read through this stuff if you'd like. Sole owners, let's say yes, hopefully. And then it would be perfect for Mary and I to sign that. And then I would also sign that, excuse me, as the broker. Okay, good. So that's one of the 3 forms. Now I can go back to the seller disclosure. And I'm not going to fill all this out, and it did, again, there's quirks to the software. Why did it not fill out Joseph and Mary Kelly when it had it on the other form already? I don't know. I wish technology worked perfectly. And then again, we've got the address on the other form. Why isn't it in here? So 4604 South Magnolia Street, and yada, yada, yada. Okay. And we are occupying the property, and then sometimes you get obstinate builders or estates do not have to fill this out. Typically they're exempt because they didn't live there. They're just selling the property as an estate. So in that case, I still advise that they get one, and they just put don't know all the way through. Sometimes builders will just draw a line right through the don't knows. Up and down the page. Authority to sell, yes, and so on and so forth. But you can see this water. Private or publicly owned water system. Is there an easement? I'd say no. Now the key to this, are there problems or repairs needed? Yes. Oh no, don't want to do that. No. The key to this is making sure that they just answer honestly. It seems like almost every time I sit with a client and they're filling this out, they will sit there and read the question and go, well, I don't know. It's like, well, there it is right there. You've got a box that says don't know. It's like they look at that and they say, well, I can't fill that out because somehow that's going to hold me liable. No, it's not. If you don't know, you don't know. And I just advise clients, yep, hit don't know, hit don't know. It's, there's no septic system, hit NA, not applicable. So just, answer it honestly, truthfully. They can kind of scribble some words on here if they need to. There's lines here, there's lines there, and then they initial each page and sign the back one. Okay, so structural, are there any pest problems and infestations, wood-burning stoves, HOAs, any flooding, standing water, or drainage problems on the property? So they just have to answer these honestly, and then at the very end, and they've got this section right here where you can fill stuff in. You can say, there was a flood in 1999, and we had it mitigated and had a drainage system put in, and it's just fine now. No problem since. Things happen to properties. I once had a young couple, doctor. He had just gotten out of medical school, and he was a resident here in Spokane, and he was the tightest young man I'd ever seen. And I say that in a bad way. He demanded everything. And a brand new house that was built custom for him, he went to do his final walkthrough and looked at it, and under one of the windows in the back, a teeny piece of concrete, brand new, teeny piece of concrete had chipped away. He actually had the gall to ask the builder, demand the builder, tear the house down, re-pour the concrete, and rebuild it. I was like, are you kidding me? And of course, he got mad at me for questioning him, and it was just, people are broken in so many ways, but our job as real estate professionals is to put that all back together. We put Humpty Dumpty back together, we keep them up on the wall, we keep the deal moving forward and do it in a professional way. So, and my comment to him immediately was, well, there's two kinds of concrete in the world, cracked and soon to be cracked, and that's just what concrete does. It doesn't mean it's unstable or that it's not going to work. It's just what concrete does. I mean, there are points where if it cracks and it opens up and earthquakes happen and floods are coming in and locusts and all that, well, you got to fix that. But people get goofy. And the point of this story is that on the Form 17 or these seller disclosures, things happen to houses. It's what you do after that that's important. So if they fix it, if they mitigate it, if they put a system in, if it's taken care of, that's fine. That doesn't scare me at all. If I'm buying a house, I'm like, oh yeah, that stuff happens, and what did you do to take care of it? Oh, you found radon, and you put a radon mitigation system in? Great. I'd rather it be in now than me have to find out later. Okay. So in this case, the sellers are signing up on this page right here. And then the final page is here for the buyers to sign. Okay, and the sellers initial that because we initial every page. Okay, so that's that form, the seller disclosure, and lead-based paints. Well, pretty simple. Again, nobody has real knowledge of lead-based paint. Leave the date open because that's going to be the contract date of the purchase and sale agreement. We don't know who the buyers are yet. And right here I'd put seller has no knowledge of lead-based paint, and seller has no report or records of lead-based paint, and then sign that. And I would probably I'll let the buyers fill that in, but waive an opportunity unless they really think there's some sort of lead-based paint problem. Okay, so that's that. Now I can just save it, and it's in our transaction desk for our listing. So let's go back to, well, let me check and see if there's any questions. Chat room. Huh, did I say cocktail? Yes, I did, Alex. It's a little early for that. You have to be in the neighborhood, and you have to stop in late in the day, and then I'll buy you a cocktail at my house. Okay, so no questions there. Thanks, everybody. Let's keep rolling along. Okay, we've got this now. Now, we need to get our clients to sign it. And again, I'm in Spokane. My clients are in Provence, which is, since I'm the client, I certainly would like to be in Provence right now. But they're far away. Oops. So this is where it gets a little goofy because I want them to sign, but there it is, July test. But these icons over here, if you see them, drive me nuts. Because again, that pen, AuthentiSign, doesn't really allow you to sign. Right now, I want to sign. So I've got July test. I go over here, and I will do, let's see, signings, I believe. Empty. Add. Okay, so a signing name. It's going to be Kelly. They're going to be the people that are signing. Actually, maybe I'll do Joe Kelly. Save. Okay. Created. Details. Now we're in the signing desk, AuthentiSign. So simultaneous sign, first come, first serve, that makes sense. The signing name's going to be Joe Kelly. The participants, so we've got Joe Kelly as the listing broker, and there's that. But I have, let's see, Kelly Joseph, remote signer. I want the client to sign. And so I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then I'm going to add that. Now, I didn't get my email in here. Here's another little glitch. You have to kind of click it back and forth a few times sometimes. You're almost toggling it for it to take. But so I'm going to put my email in here. And everything else looks good. Basically, you just need these ones right here. Joseph Kelly, Kelly Wright. There's my email, and I'll save the participant. Okay, no red flags here, so it looks good. Documents. Good. We want all of these documents right here that we just went through and filled out. We're going to add those. Right role. Okay, so seller 1, Joseph Kelly. That's right. We want to ignore everyone else because it really doesn't matter yet. In this case, we just want to get the listing. So to get the listing agreement and the forms that we need to upload into the listing, we want that stuff. Okay, so that looks good. I can tell with these little yellow boxes that it has already put in a place for me to electronically sign, so I don't need to add anything. So all of that's taken care of. We're ready to go, except I want to show you this one, design. Now, design is when we add an additional document, a PDF. Okay, so, well, okay, I won't, let's do this. This is where you can manipulate everything here. I'm going to go back, save and continue, save, cancel, to continue without saving. Let's go into documents, add. Sorry, my phone's going berserk over here. I've got a Seattle agent that apparently wants to get a hold of me. If you guys ever want to get a hold of me, I'm not always available. I will get back to you, but just be patient, please. Okay, so here we've got different places where we can get documents. This is where we get a PDF to add to the transaction. Now I'm going to upload a file. I'm just going to take a PDF that I have from other places. So let's look at Dr. Gordon Moore. He is a client of mine. He is a sale. And I will add his seller disclosure. Okay, let's do that. It could be any PDF. It could just be, it could be an Exhibit A. I haven't ordered the Exhibit A here for this one, but let's say it was an Exhibit A in a PDF style that was sent over to me from the title company. And if that's the case, then it would be perfect for uploading. That would be the classic example of an additional document we would need for this. And yes, I am getting a new computer. I ordered it yesterday, so hopefully that alleviates. Oh, there's the audio. Make sure that my phone's off. Huh, okay. Did we finally get it? Audio connection restored. I think we had a little bit of a burst of info because I just actually killed my Wi-Fi on my phone and we got audio back. So, okay, I apologize for the pause, but it wasn't too bad this time. Okay, so now if you see here, we've got these three forms we had worked on before in Transaction Desk, and they have the little yellow boxes where we're supposed to sign, so they're perfect. They're in good shape. But this form over here doesn't have any little yellow boxes. And I realize it's the same form as this, but it's just a PDF. We can mark up PDFs however we want. So if I go to our new 16-page document, everything's going to be pretty much set the way I want it to be, but always review it. So you go through here and you're like, okay, the numbers look good. This is where my client needs to initial and date. This is where they need to sign. Initial, good. That all looks good. Everything there. Sign that page. Leave this one blank for the buyers. Initial, good. Now I've brought in the new form, this one, a new form. And so what I'm going to do here, let's say it's seller's initials. Well, this is where you drag and drop. Okay, so make a note of that. Drag and drop over here. This is where you do your magic. Now, if you have multiple signers, let's say you have Joseph Kelly and Mary Kelly, I would go here and Mary's name would be listed there. So I can go bounce back and forth between Joseph and Mary because a JK or a Joseph Kelly will come up when I drag and drop a signature. But if I go to Mary, then it would do the same for her with her initials. So this is kind of where it all happens. And in this case, it says initial. So I would want them to initial here and put a date there. Okay, good. Oh, we got to do it again. Initial here and put a date here. Now, you see these little X's, you can also do those. So let's say they need to X a bunch of these. Like, hey, no, that forgot to do that, forgot to do that. You could even do all of these. Not applicable, not applicable. So you could talk to them on the phone. Again, if they're on the beach, you say, hey, well, let's just take 20 minutes and I'll ask you each of these questions. And then you could fill it out for them and then send them the document to electronically sign. Okay, so that's what these little X's are for. I've never really used this guy, but I suppose you could use that in place. I'll delete it and delete that one as well. Okay, so we keep going through. We've got to initial here. We got a date there. Keep going through. We have to initial here. We have to date there. Aha, seller. Now we need to sign here. Boom, and date here. Okay, so initial and or sign. You guys just have to look at the documents pretty closely, and then one last initial here. Okay. Okay, so now I've got a complete document. I took a PDF, added it to my group of documents. I manipulated it, marked it up, and did what I had to do to make sure it's perfect, and then added it to these forms here, so we're all set to go. Okay, so now we got to track down Joe Kelly, who's in Provence, and he is sipping some nice Côte du Rhône wine. He's eating some cheese. Maybe he even bought a beret, thinking he's French. So he's having a great time over there. I don't want to disturb him too much, but we got to get this thing listed. So I need, yes, I like wine too. So we got to get this thing listed, and this is how we're going to do it. And usually you can text or call and say, hey, I'm going to be sending this over at like noon your time. And so it's all ready to go. I hit next. Now there's two things I can do here. I can send an invitation and they're just going to sign where it's marked up, or I can give them instructions. So your listing, I don't type well. Message, hey Joe, please initial and sign where indicated. Thanks. Thanks. Hope the wine is great. Okay, so you just sent a little note. We save it, and now we send the invitations. Look at that. Authentic invitations were successfully sent. Okay. Good. Fantastic. So it is in progress right now. So it's out there in the cloud. It's out there in the, wherever the cloud is. I actually think they're huge server farms right down the highway here in Washington. In Moses Lake, I know there's a massive one. And also Prineville, Oregon, the massive server farms there. So they don't do logging or Les Schwab tires. They specialize in, and the reason they are in these areas because they're kind of high and dry, and the taxes are super cheap, and electricity is super low. These server farms are the size of football fields. There's dozens of them, and that's what the cloud actually is. The Northwest, the dry part of the Northwest part of the country is where everything for Amazon and Google and all this stuff goes. So if you ever wanted to know, now you know. Okay, so let's do this. I am going to get into my email, which I normally wouldn't do. Hopefully no one has sent me a nasty email today. I will try to get them out of here as fast as possible. Today's interest rates, so those came in earlier. And so it's loading all my stuff right now. Mostly this is the one I want to see. Okay, so I go into my email and I see signing participant information. I'm sorry, invitation. I was looking at my phone. So I only have 2 agents that are really need something from me right now. They're blowing my phone up. Okay, so signing participant invitation. So it's all right here. And again, you can do this on your phone. If they get email on their phone, fantastic. Just open it up. It's going to prepare a 16-page document. I didn't know there was a pin. I don't think I sent one. Forgot pin, click here. Okay, an email has been sent to you containing the pin. Oh, thank you. Oh, I guess the pin was here. I probably didn't. I needed to do this. Download pictures. Click here to sign. I still don't see the pin. Do you guys see it? See it over there? No. Okay, well, they sent me a pin. Ah, there it is. Bingo. Let's go back here. Let's do our signing. Prepare the document. And again, pretend that I'm in Provence right now. So I'm sitting on the beach in Antibes or Nice, Marseille, all wonderful places. And I can do that. And then it will ask, how do you want to do this? And you can draw your own signature, which is just kind of goofy. It's like, Joe. So most people just don't do that, but some people prefer that. I would rather just accept. So you can select the font style and go, well, I don't like that one. How about that one? So no big deal. It's all still legal. And then accept. So now I'm ready to start. I'm in Provence, one hand with my wine, the other hand I am signing and initialing. And it's going to just tell me where to sign, where to initial. And I can go right down the list. So let's do that. Oh, I guess I shouldn't have filled out so many boxes, but since I did, I'm going to have to go through this. But I'm like, okay, this is what I wanted to fill out. This is what we discussed. And the dates all go in automatically, today's date. So that part's cool. Complete signing. Fantastic. And you're almost done. Oh my gosh. Download fully executed signed document and a signing certificate. I don't really need that. I mean, that's something that's going to come to you guys as real estate professionals. You're going to have an authentication certificate, I believe. So you're going to have everything you need to verify that it was legitimate signing. Okay? All right, so this all looks pretty good. Let's close that. Let's close out some of this stuff. And let's go back to Transaction Desk. So I'm going to refresh this, and let's see if that lightning bolt turns into a, see that? The lightning bolt turned into a certificate. So now I've got a certificate. sorry. Interrupted again. Okay. There we go. So we can take a look at the document. I believe anyway. Let's take a look here. Open signing. Okay, our sound went out again. Not too bad considering last time we totally got interrupted, so we're going to keep working on that sound and make sure that we don't get interrupted too much. All right, so here's the page. Basically, this shows that Joe Kelly in Provence signed everything. It was authenticated as well. Oh, I better close my emails, otherwise we're going to get interrupted a lot. Okay, so we've done all of that, and if we want the authentication, we can get that. Original document right here, document for Joe Kelly that was sent to him, and the final document that was signed. Let's go ahead and open that. Right? Come on. All right. That doesn't seem to want to open. Did you? No, I've got sound. Everything's still going. So, okay, preparing a document. So let's take a look here. There it is. There it is. Look at signatures and initials. Fantastic. All right there. So now, exclusive sale and listing agreement. I want to close that. But you know what I want to do is I want the seller disclosure and the lead-based paint. That's something we're going to use in the listing. So I do want to open those. I now have, and basically right now I have authority to list this house and start really getting into it. And so these documents are great. They're back. It's like we're on the clock. Now I'm going to view this as a PDF. Okay, Adobe. If you don't have the Adobe PDF software, it's free. You can just Google Adobe PDF, go to Adobe's website, you download the software, your computer now can manipulate and use Adobe PDFs. And so here's the key to this, is I want to save it as a PDF. See that right there, Adobe Acrobat document. That's a PDF, Adobe. Seller, Form 17. I'm going to say Form 17 Kelly. I'm going to save it. I typically save it on my desktop until I can create a transaction file on my desktop. So that's one. Now, let's see, close that. I also want to get the lead-based paint. So let's open that up. Everything looks good. View as a PDF. Save as lead-based paint 22J for Kelly, so you don't get them confused. Name them by the address or the seller or whomever, however you want to do that. And save that on my desktop as a PDF, Adobe Acrobat. Voila. Okay, I'm going to get rid of that. I'm going to close that. We have authenticated all of this. If I ever need to go back to it, I've got it. Okay, so good. Now what we want to do is we want to create a listing, and you create the listing in the MLS. So now we're finished with Transaction Desk. Joe Kelly in Provence has given me authorization to sell his house, and we're done. Now I just got to sell it. Now I've got to create a listing. Now I won't get too far into the listing, but basically create it here, add residential listing, and new listing, all that good stuff. What I have to do, I'll just go through it real quickly. Subtype, residential, area grid. I don't know. I'm just going to pick one. Open all. I'm just doing the little P's for partial. A contract starts today. It finishes tomorrow. Dun, dun, dun. Any more little P's? No. So now I can save it as a partial listing. Continue input. Now, see over here, it went from just listing to pictures, listing detail, documents. Under documents, I can add new, and here's where I can choose that file that I want. I want to go to desktop. Now look at my desktop files, and there they are. Voila. Open. Choose this one, description, Form 17. Form 17, save it, and there it is. So if someone comes to make an offer, they can open this up, their buyers can sign it, say we acknowledge it, and give that to you with the offer. So now it's in the listing, and you can create all the other listing, information, put it all in there, then you can upload pictures and listing detail and all that. I'm not going to get into that. That's in the MLS. The key is to understand the difference between the MLS and transaction desk. Okay, the MLS is where we do the photos, we do the descriptions, we get it up on the MLS. That's the place where in most markets Zillow will take it and put it up on Zillow or the IDX feed to our website or the other big box stores, whomever. And Zillow, by the way, is an absolute cluster right now. They are tripping over themselves as far as communicating with the MLSs and getting listings up to their website. Half the MLSs in the country are not cooperating with them. So there's a real kind of war coming, I think, between Zillow and the MLSs, and we're caught in the middle. So anyway, this is how you do that, and that is the MLS. But we want to stick to transaction desk. Okay, so all that stuff you did, now we've got the photos uploaded. We can go ahead and hit that thing and make it live. And a sign goes up today, flyer box goes up, you get a key box on the door, and you're live. Like, bam, you hit go, and you're live on the market. People start calling you up and saying, hey, can I see that house? So that's what we do for a listing. And then we sell it, and we go make some money, and we make happy clients, and they refer other clients to us. So that's the golden ticket. Now, let's take a little breather here, and let's make sure everyone is good. Any sort of questions? Agent also needs to sign LeadBased Paint disclosure. Yes. So LeadBased Paint disclosure. Now this one I wouldn't worry about as much in transaction desk, Lynn, because it's your document. So when you give it to us, you can just sign it. Like, there's a bunch of other stuff I just didn't even bother with because I just didn't want to take the time. So you're talking about right here, listing broker, signing that, and you can send that document to yourself to electronically sign, but I typically just sign them. I want to take care of my clients, and I want to make sure that they can electronically sign. Now, if you want to electronically sign, then you go back. Let's go back to our transaction. And remember when you had all those different people in there, and we hit ignore, ignore, ignore. Well, that's one where you wouldn't ignore. You would say, okay, listing broker, their email, and I'm going to go ahead and send that document to them to electronically sign, basically sending it to yourself. And again, I just don't do it because I'm sending it to myself. I can just print it and sign it for the file. I'm still old school, so I keep a paper file. Even at the very end of it, I mean, we can always sign it. If we got audited 2 years later, we could just sign it right then and there. I mean, it doesn't matter as much that you sign it as much as it does the client. So here's this one, the Joe Kelly signing. It was approved. There's our little certificate. Original document. I can prepare that. It's going to take, it might take a little too much time, Lynn. I'm not sure I want to redo this. I don't actually. Let me go ahead and close that out. So again, when we were signing, it had a lot of stuff in the listing broker, the selling broker. That's where you, instead of saying ignore, you would put remote signer. Okay, remote signer, and then your name comes up, and you put in your email address, and it gets emailed to you as well as them, and then just electronically sign it that way. I just wanted to make this kind of fast so we keep going through it because I want to get to making an offer here as well. Hopefully I helped you figure it out. Okay, so I'm finished with those questions for now. Let's go back to our dashboard and finish my tea. I'm out. The sound is still working. Good, good, good.
Did you get Lynn's question?
I did. I got the okay. Question, and I just answered that. Okay, so now we want to make an offer. So here's the July test one, right? That's a transaction. We can always go back and look at those forms. There's the forms. And it's all this stuff has been signed. So let's go back to our dashboard. Now, Alex comes along, and Alex wants to make an offer on this property. So we've got it listed. It's been listed for 3 minutes, and he wants to buy it. Full price offer, which, Alex, I think you should make me a $600,000 offer. But we have to kind of do it separately. So that was our part. And let's say in this case, of course, we're going to be dual agent. I'll be the dual agent. We're going to create a transaction. We're going to do Vesselet. Residential sale this time, okay? Source. Now we can get a Paragon source because we have, and oh, you know what? I didn't make it a full MLS number. Maybe not. In most cases, if I filled out all this listing information, instead of partially save it, if I really save it and it has a full MLS number, that's where I would put this in. But in this case, I don't have one, so we can do tax records. Oh, I don't want to do that. That's my phone number. I forget what the tax number was. Okay, well, we don't even need to put any of that in here yet. So I'm going to do RPR, residential sale, leave that blank, and then we're going to be both in this case. Okay, I'm going to represent both parties, dual agency. Alex is going to be buying the house that we just created, and this is what we're going to do for him. So I'll be dual agent. Create. Residential sale, street number 4604 South Magnolia Street. Oh, street number, that's fine. Street name, South Magnolia. I can spell. Street. 99223, good. Year built, 1968. Listing number, tax ID, that's where a lot of that stuff would go. Now, here's purchase price. So the listing price, I wanted $600, but now we're representing Alex. And Alex is like, you know what, Joe, you overpriced this thing. I'm going to only offer you $550. Okay, let's go to next. Purchase and sale agreement date is going to be today. Offer expiration date, 2 days from now. I'm going to give you 2 days, Mr. Kelly, to consider my $550 offer. We don't have a closing. Well, I guess we could put closing in there if they accept it. We want to close it on August 18th. Give at least a month. Possession date on closing. So mutual acceptance, we just don't have that yet. Next. Joe Kelly is the listing broker. Joe Kelly is the selling broker. Listing firm, selling firm. And let's add, well, we don't have to add Alex yet. We'll just go to next. Those are just contacts. Forms. Okay, this is the big one. This is where we're going to take a little bit of time. Because we're making an offer, all those other forms that we kind of ignored on the listing, that's where we're going to go ahead and grab those, manipulate those in Transaction Desk, and get them to electronically sign them. And I'm out of water, so cottonmouth the rest of the way. Okay, let's add forms. We're going to do statewide forms. So we already know there's a Form 17, the seller disclosure, that's going to be in there, so we don't need to add that. That's just something that we're going to manipulate a little bit and we'll send with our offer. But here we go, residential purchase and sale agreement. We want to finance it because it's hard to pay cash for properties. We don't need any of this other stuff. Optional clauses is kind of goofy. That's where you can add a warranty. You can do a neighborhood review. There's a bunch of stuff you can do there. Home inspection. That's not the inspection addendum, by the way. And then we've got the lead-based paint. Identification of utilities. I suppose since it's not there, it's just such a boring, simple document. But title contingency possible, just to make sure there's a clean title on it. And if there's not a title that is warrantable, then we can poo-poo the deal. That's a technical term, Alex, poo-poo. Okay, cruising along here. We're in pretty good shape. General blank addendum. You can add a lot of stuff. There's the inspection addendum. Again, in Washington, it's a Form 35. We encourage our clients to do inspection addendums, but sometimes they have to waive them. Again, pre-inspections done in Seattle. Also what's done in Seattle are escalation addendums. That's where you're escalating to a certain price in certain increments with a max ceiling. So in this case, Alex might want to escalate in $1,000 increments up to $590 in case there's other offers that came in. But I'm going to keep that out of here for now because it's not something you typically see. Now, agency disclosure, I'm going to get that one in there because I'm doing dual agency. And the rest of these are good. So we're going to add these forms. Voila, here's our offer. So now we want to go through each form and fill it out properly. The buyer is going to be Alex Veselitz. Yep, close enough. And Joe and Mary Kelly. And MLS number 2017-44444, something like that. Once we create an MLS number, that's going to be in there. Property, tax parcel, that'll autofill there. Want to keep the stove, the refrigerator, the washer and dryer, dishwasher, no hot tubs, security system, and definitely not getting my attached speakers. Okay, $550 earnest money of say $5,000 in the form of a check held by the closing agent. We don't want the selling firm to hold it, even though that's us, but the selling firm can manipulate earnest money too much. That's the trick. That's why they keep a trust account, to protect their clients, or at least allegedly protect their clients. Ultimately, if they're in the wrong, a court is going to see it that way and they're going to have to turn that money over. But just to be safe, default to the closing agent and try to avoid attorneys if possible. Forfeiture of earnest money, in this case we'll do Chicago Title and closing agent. Oh, that's right, we did FATCO on this one. First American Title Company. FATCO, closing agent, FATCO. Possession on closing. Requested Form 22K for utilities. After it closes, things are assumed by buyer. Seller is not a foreign person for purposes of U.S. income tax. Not really sure why they have that on there, but that's something new they added. Now you can add the forms that you're doing here if you want. You don't have to. I mean, they're part of the contract already. Up to you. It's just a Washington State thing. Signature stuff, Joe Kelly, we definitely are showing dual agency because I'm listing and selling at the same time, and apparently selling. Okay, so all that's there. That looks good. Let's go on to the next form. Financing addendum. Alex has been kicking butt at Kelly Wright, so he's flush with cash. He's going to do a conventional first with 20% down. And loan information. Basically, you can change these dates if you need to, but they have automated default dates in there. Right to terminate. It doesn't give the seller the right to terminate at any time because they just get a whim. It gives them the right to terminate, and they can give delivery, see this delivery of notice, and within 3 days, the buyer has to remove a contingency. So if the buyer has a finance contingency and the seller wants to terminate that contingency, they can. If the buyer's like, look, I'm not going to move forward without that financing contingency, well, tough luck. This thing's going to die. And oftentimes this happens, the buyer at that point has lending approval. They're really confident they're going to get it. But if they don't, they're going to lose that earnest money. So it's terminating that finance contingency and moving forward to close with the transaction. So a lot of people miss that. They think it's a right to terminate notice at any time. No, it's not. It's a right to give notice that you will terminate if a contingency is not removed. Okay, and there's that 22AR is the form to use. Appraisal less than purchase price. If that ever happens, then you just give notice of low appraisal to the seller. Loan cost provisions, we always avoid this. Some people want to do 3%, which is the max for Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, and conventional. FHA, VA, and USDA government loans, they go up to 6%, okay? So, and a lot of people with a full price offer want to get that 3%. You don't always need it. If it's a $550,000 purchase, 3% is $16,500. You don't need that much money in closing costs. You can get all the closing costs done for $6,000 or $7,000 on something like this. But if they're working with Kelly Wright agents, excuse me, they're never going to have to pay closing costs if they work through me, because I'll get the lender to pay the closing costs and not the buyer and not the seller. It's part of our FUSE training. That's what we do here. That's very, very special. And then you can see here, appraisal less than sale price. Read through that carefully, but I want to keep us on track. So we've got that form. It's got everything looks good there. Identification of utilities, pretty standard. It's just going to have some lines where we would fill in water district, city, sewer district, city, garbage, city, electricity, Vista or Seattle City Light, or it could be a PUD, and that is where these forms come in handy. If it's a PUD, if it's some, like here in Spokane, there's a little area called Barradale, and they use their own water and their own electricity and all of that. So sometimes when you're outside of the city, there's goofy little electricity, garbage, gas, utilities. So just be aware of that, and then this is the form to use again in the state of Washington. The title contingency. So title contingency is pretty simple. It's just we want a marketable title, and that's it. There you see marketable title, and nothing major. You don't necessarily have to have this form in there. General blank addendum. This is where you just put in anything that you need, and so you can say seller and buyer as follows. Seller to leave small yappy dog named Ox with house. Seller to leave am I spelling that? Raspberry bushes. Whatever. I mean, again, this stuff comes up. all the time, and you can really put anything in there. If you're going to do something like a boat or a car or a tractor, make sure you have the VIN number in there, the separate bill of sale and the VIN number in this blank document. It's really important so that they can show it as part of the purchase and sale, and also they can go to register it after the purchase and sale with that bill of sale. Okay, so let's just kind of made that up, and now Alex, you're going to get my little yappy dog, Ox. He's a great dog, but he yaps. Once he stops yapping, he can settle in on your lap pretty easily. Inspection addendum. Okay, we want an inspection contingency. May include a sewer inspection. If we're going to do one, might as well check that. Now, in Washington State and other states apply as well, you can self-inspect. This came to a head in the Washington Supreme Court a few years ago, where someone tried basically determining that you weren't a professional inspector, so you couldn't get out of the deal on an inspection clause. And the state Supreme Court determined, hey, you can just go there with Uncle Fred the next day, look at the curb appeal, go, you know what, I self-inspected, I don't like the house, boom, you're out. Nothing anybody can do about it. You don't have to be a licensed inspector in order to get out of a deal on the inspection contingency. Neighborhood review. Sometimes I've seen floodlights from a stadium really kind of ruin a backyard environment at night. Waiver and inspection. This is where you'd use this waiver to in Seattle or Portland when a pre-inspection has been done, and you're just going to waive it. It's kind of assumed if you don't have an inspection contingency, but this is a good way to say, hey, we officially waived this inspection. Makes for a stronger offer. And we don't advise that anybody waive an inspection. We only advise that they get an inspection, and we leave it up to them. So here's where we can see seller and buyer. So we are representing both. Undersigned broker represents seller and buyer. This helps us in dual agency. And then we get a signature from the seller, a signature from the buyer. And then, of course, a signature from us. And this is where I would sign, Joe Kelly. And that way, everyone has constructive notice that we're doing dual agency. I'm representing both parties, so they can't say later on, oh, I didn't know you were representing the other side. That was my good dumbass voice. Sorry. It's the worst impression I've done yet, I think. Okay, so we've got everything in here pretty much set to go. No other forms to look at. Let's save it. Let's get out of here. Let's save. And let's go to our, this is where it's going to get a little bit goofy, Authentisign, I hope. Oh, good. I'm glad we have upload a file. So we're going to upload those two. Remember, there were two PDFs on our desktop that I put in for this file. Form 17, Kelly. I want to do another one. Hey, mister, let me do another one. Add forms. To documents, I guess I can add it there, documents. Okay, I'll do that. Simul-sign, first come, first serve, participants. And again, Lynn, this is where, if you're doing a listing with that LeadBased form, this is where you want to be able to add you as a signing. So let's say listing broker, you would just do that, do a remote signer, and then you would also get an email to eSign. But in this case, just a reviewer. Details. Oh, I want to get rid of that. In this case, I only want Alex to sign. He's the one making an offer. So I can review this. That's fine. I mean, I can put in here reviewer, Joe Kelly, and all that stuff. But we want Alex. You can add a new participant from contacts or from the transaction. Let's see. Why didn't Alex get in there? Oh, there we go, because I didn't check him. Remote signer. Okay, add. Now, there's Alex ready to make his offer. And again, he's sitting in Tahiti. I'm sitting in Provence. This is getting crazy. but we can do it. But I'm going to put info@kellywright.com as the buyer. I really don't need anything else. The save participant documents. Okay, we've got these documents. I want to add that other one from my desktop, 22J. Form 42. Ooh, why don't we, let's see, Vesselid forms and documents. Veselids, sorry, Alex. Veselids, documents, financing, all of this stuff. Yeah, we want to add all this, you bet. I think we already have Form 42. So you just want to review it and make sure that all of your documents are in there. You want to make sure everything's clean. There's just Alex is the buyer. No partners, no spouses, anything like that. As we go through this, all those little yellow boxes show that it's going to be already set up, except these two, the PDFs that we uploaded. So in that case, I need to design them before I send them off to Alex for signature. Okay. So we've got that buyer and seller. Alex is the buyer. So sign here, Alex, and date there. And again, I can put my signature in here, Lynn, but I'm just going to sign it. Once I get all this stuff back, I'm just going to sign my own stuff. Whoops, I didn't want next. I'm going to have to go back. Close. Design. Because there's other places we need to initial and sign. Okay, so drag and drop. Let's figure out what documents we need. Here's the seller disclosure that I did when we did the listing, but now the buyer needs to sign it in their offer. Whoops, we missed one. What did we miss here? 4 of 6, 5 of 6, and 6 of 6. There it is. Okay, so the buyer wants to acknowledge, if you look at this closely, buyer hereby acknowledges that they've effectively read it, they've seen it, but they're not waiving any rights. So up here on the top line is where we want to sign. We don't want them to waive or revoke offer, unless that's what they want to do. But so I'm going to have Alex sign here and date it there. Everything else looks pretty good. We've got to acknowledge this buyer initial here, Alex, date there, okay, and he's going to X this thing out. He's going to waive his opportunity, and then he's going to sign. There's a lot of signatures and initials. Sometimes it's very redundant, and then he's also going to initial this one. Okay, and then the actual purchase and sale. So he's got that. It's all automated. I think we're okay with the design part. So we designed those PDFs that we uploaded, and this is all part of the transaction desk stuff. Good, 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 good. Yeah, we don't need anything else. Okay. So let's hit next. Now we're ready to start doing Authenticide. So custom invitations, subject, your offer on Magnolia. Alex, please initial and sign where indicated. If you see anything that is not correct, please contact me ASAP. Okay, Joe. Save. Okay, now let's send the invitations. Alex, will you have Marissa come help me out and get me a cup of water, please? Sign. Successful. Okay, so now we know the email is being sent. And again, I created my own email address for Alex just so you could see what I see on my computer. But see, we've got this lightning bolt right there. So that is in the cloud. It is out there. And I can rename that. Form 42, it really should be Vaselis offer on Magnolia, or however you want to keep things and file things in your transaction desk. So now it's in the cloud. It's been emailed, all that stuff. So let's go to my email and let's find it. So while those load up, okay, there we go. Your offer on Magnolia. So there it is. Okay, download those. Click here to sign. Okay, that signature looks good enough. We're happy with that. Let's accept it. And let's start the signing process. Bam. Bam. There we go. Got to do that X, got to do that signature, got to do that, got to do that. Second page, third page, fourth page of the offer. Do that, do that, do that, do that. And it'll tell you if you miss one. I mean, you go through these things and it's like, oh my gosh, did I get them all? Well, if you did not get them all, the software is going to tell you and go back to the one that you may have missed. Let's complete the signing. No thanks. Fantastic. So everything has been sent, and now we go back to transaction desk. Let me close out my email so it doesn't bug us. So now let's turn this lightning bolt into a certificate. And that's just refreshing. Oh, it's not through the cloud yet. So it's coming back to the cloud and all that, but it happens usually pretty fast. There it is. Okay, so now we've got our certificate. Everything has been signed. Fantastic. Authenticated, signed, and there's the final document. And here's where you can save it. Let's say you have electronic files. You can save it there, or if you want to print it, this is where you basically view as a PDF. And if I wanted to create a paper file like I have behind me with my clients, I would just hit print. And I'd print this whole thing up. Okay? But in this case, we don't want to do that. In this case, we want to, let's see, what do we want to do? Let me go back here a second. Let's close that out. Final document. We want to definitely get it to the listing agent, which is me. You want to include your pre-approval letter from the lender, which should be K-Loans, and you want to include your earnest money check. In this case, a $5,000 check made out to First American Title. So you want to include that with this offer. You know, I can just upload it to one of these if you want to do Dropbox or anything like that. In this case, I'm going to go old school, which is 2016. And I'm just going to save it as, there's my Adobe Acrobat. I'm going to save it as Vaselis offer on Magnolia. Okay, so I know what this document is. I'm going to put it on my desktop and save it. Okay, so I've got that. I can get out of here and voila, there it is right there. I can open it up. I've got a PDF of my offer. Okay. So what I can do now, if I want, I can just simply email it over. So I can go back to my email, inbox, new email to J. Kelly, our offer on Magnolia. Again, my typing's awful. Joe, please find my offer, my client's offer on Magnolia. We love the house and are very excited. If there is anything else you need, please contact me. And then my signature, Kelly writes, and I attach the file right there. Okay, so there it is. I've got a PDF that is attached, 946 kilobits, so it's not too big to email. And I'm going to email that to the broker, the other broker, which is me. So, let's go ahead and refresh this. These are all still through. There we go. Look at that. So there's the offer. I'm the listing broker going, okay, I just got an offer in. Fantastic. Look at this. Alex Baselitz. He has pretty much put a nice offer together. Normally I'd put the purchase and sale first, but it is what it is for training purposes. But that's where I can go and really look at the meat of the offer right here. And go, okay, $550,000. Is that good enough? Well, Joe Kelly's he's pretty tight, so he's probably not going to accept that. $5,000, that's a reasonable earnest money. Everything else looks good. Yep, closing on the 18th, that works for me. And then, but hey, is he going to ask for like a 6% seller contribution? I want to look through this thing closely. So make sure you look through everything. 20% down, that's solid. This guy's got money. If you do a big down payment, especially in Seattle where you're dealing with $1 million property or $800,000, they say 20% down, an $800,000 property, that's $160,000. Do they really have that money? So what I would do with the copy of the earnest money check and the pre-qual letter is send proof of funds. The Fidelity account, cross out the account number, just have the name on there, Alex Baselitz, and then have the $160,000 in that account. So you want to make sure that it's a legitimate offer. Don't waste anyone's time. Here, loan cost provisions, 0. Fantastic. So that's a straight up $550 offer. I can start calculating how much money I'm going to net on this transaction. Everything else looks good. So now this offer, I can go ahead and sign it. I can just physically print it and sign it, or while we're in this class, in this webinar, I can go ahead and take this, copy and replace, no. And we can go ahead and get it signed if everybody agrees to the terms. I'm going to get rid of that. Let's go back to transaction desk, get that out of my tabs, close, okay. Let's see, any questions? Alex, are you out there? Can you hear me? Okay, I can't hear you right now, but I can hear you in the other office. Will you
How about now?
Okay.
How about now?
Go ahead, Marissa, give me a cup of water. We still have about 30 minutes, and I'm getting parched. Okay. So wouldn't the seller complete all the utilities form? The seller typically can, but they don't have to. I mean, if you know what it is, I mean, the seller's got a better idea of what the utilities are. Again, if it's a PUD or if it's some sort of podunk little utilities group out there in the middle of nowhere, yeah, the seller should put that together, but they don't always. So thanks, Marissa. They don't always do that, so you kind of have to make up for it. I mean, ultimately, it just has to be there for escrow to make sure everything's paid. So sometimes, most of the time, the seller does it. Sometimes as a buyer, you're like, hey, I don't see a Form 22K, but I'm going to attach it here, sign it, fill it out, and all that good stuff. Okay, so we have this final document. Now we can go back. Let's go back to our dashboard. So there's our July test where our listing was, and Alex's offer is right there. So let's create a transaction. Oh wait, I'm sorry, we don't need to create one. We can just go back to our July test. Let's go to the details here. Great. Now, documents. All this stuff. We want to add a document. Add a new document. Aha! Drag and drop. So here's Alex's offer on the house, because remember, I'm in Provence. Alex is in Tahiti or someplace like that. We're halfway around the world, but we got to get this done. I've got to consummate the offer. So this is where I, as the broker, listing and selling brokers, we got to start figuring out how to get this to our clients. So I just added that document in here. There it is right there. Okay. And now let's go back to signings. Oops, that's approved. Add offer on Magnolia. Save. Okay. Offer on Magnolia. Participants are going to be remote signer seller right there. Remote signer add. Email jkelly@kellywright.com. Good. There's a signing pin in case I need it again. Copy. Save participant. Documents. What are we going to sign? Well, we signed all of that stuff when we basically created the listing. In this case, this is the offer. That's what we want to sign. Okay, now we got to design it. I'll take a look. Actually, I'm going to close it because we'll look at it this way. Design. So this is the full offer that came in. We talked about it on the phone. I talked about it with Joe Kelly. Joe Kelly called, and we talked about it. $550 seems pretty good. I'm super desperate. I want this money. I want this thing to sell. I want to move to Provence and start making wine and wearing berets and throwing baguettes at Americans. So that's my new life. I want to get rid of this house in Spokane. This offer is good enough. No time to waste. So I'm going to accept it. And so here is the full thing. Now, Joe Kelly is the remote signer and must design this. Agency disclosure. Okay. Looks like I've got a sign there with a date. And I guess, I mean, there'd be another Dropbox for the listing agent, but since I'm the listing agent too, I could, you know, I can sign there. Why not? Let's go down through here. This has all been signed. I'm pretty sure the Form 17. So that's all been taken care of. And yep, I signed that originally, and Alex signed it right there as acknowledgement. Seller's initials, seller's initials. So that document's taken care of. Just make sure the agreed date, the purchase sale date is in here. I can put it in there right there. I don't know. I don't think it would be up there, but we're going to call today the purchase and sale date. And if I had done this a little cleaner, I'd have Alex in here as well, but it's too late to do that. So that's little stuff you could probably clean up later, but you don't necessarily need to right now. We just want to get the meat of the contract done. Broker's acknowledgments. Selling broker. Joseph Kelly. And listing broker. Oh, no, Joseph Kelly. Man, I'm selling a house. I'm dual agent. Holy smokes. Okay, this is the meat I was talking about. So here's the actual purchase and sale. I look at these terms. Everything looks good. There's Alex buying a house from Joe and Mary Kelly on Magnolia for $550 with $5,000 earnest money. Everything looks good. We can be out by 8/18. You know what, Alex? That's a pretty good offer. I'm not going to haggle. No, I'm going to sell this thing to you. You now are going to be committed, Alex, to a $550,000 house. And I'm suing you if you don't follow through. Okay, so seller's initials, initial here. Bam, bam. We got to keep designing this so that we agree on the terms. And initial here. Initial here. Financing addendum, loan purchase, 20% down, conventional loan. I like it. Initial here. Not asking for closing costs. Boy, I like that because that's just cost right out of my pocket. Initial here. Financing addendum, last page. Initial there. Identification of utilities, no matter how it's filled out, we just want it completed for the file and for the escrow officer so that they can make sure it's paid. It's just informative. It's not going to affect the contract at all. There's no real terms to it. It's just information. Title contingency, okay. Boom, boom. Addendum, leaving small yappy dog named Ox. You know what? That's fine. I'm going to go to Provence. I can't bring a yappy dog with me. So Alex, you get my yappy dog. And all of his vet bills. Inspection. Yep. We'll acknowledge that they're going to do an inspection. That's fair. They can inspect all those places my boys have broken. Okay, and that's it. That's the end of the document. So everything looks good there. Hit next. Final accepted offer. Joe, please sign /initial where indicated. Congratulations. I will let you know the next step. Hope you are enjoying Provence. Did I spell that right? Maybe. Close enough. Okay. So now I'm just going to send those invitations. They were sent. Fantastic. So now we got our lightning bolt, but we don't have it signed back. The signed around completed offer. Yes, Lynn, technically my wife does need to sign too, but for these training purposes, I don't really want to email her a bunch of stuff. So let's see. Let's open up my Outlook. Probably 40 more new emails. Okay, here's the final accepted offer. Signing participant invitation. Let's do it. So remember, I'm in Provence now. Alex is in Tahiti. He's done all this with the dual agency broker in Spokane. There's my signing pin. I knew I would need that eventually. I will just accept that font. And we're getting all this done electronically. So, I mean, it's just amazing what you can do electronically. So signing every place where I put those signatures and initials. Hopefully your client reads this more than I am reading it. But again, for purposes, we'll assume that I am reading everything. Complete the signing. I don't need a password. Okay. Fantastic. Close out my email so I don't get bombarded while we speak. Let's go back to transaction desk. Here's our little lightning bolt. Let's make sure we get a certification. There it is. So guess what? Congratulations. This house is now sold. It is under contract. In fact, I could even go to Paragon, go to my listings, and I could mark it as pending or contingent upon inspection in this case. So we've got a contract. Now we got to, get all the other wheels moving. We got to get that earnest money. We got to get that over to escrow. In this case, I would suggest Mr. Veselitz in Tahiti go to a bank there, wire the $5,000 to First American Title in Spokane so that the earnest money component of it has been taken care of by law. And then gather up all the paperwork, and it's all right here. So I could basically just final document. Take a look at this, print it out, and that's the one I want for my file. When I go down to FATCO, I want to give them a copy of the signed around purchase and sale agreement. See? Signatures and initials everywhere where they're supposed to be on both sides of the transaction. Joe has signed it. Alex has signed it. We'll assume Mary has signed it. This house is being sold. Look at that. See, there we go. Purchase and sale, both sides signed. Okay? So that's where you can print it out or save it as a PDF and get it to us right away. As hopefully you guys know, and if you don't, you can always send to paperwork@kellywright.com, and we'll have a file. So that way when it closes and a check comes in, we're like, bam, Joe Kelly, he gets a commission because we've got a complete file with the earnest money receipt. Remember that? We've got to have the earnest money receipt, very important, and a full copy of the purchase and sale agreement with all addenda. Okay? So if you have questions about that, please email me. But you can upload it, view as a PDF, and save it as a PDF. And this is what I'm constantly doing. And if you didn't see this already, I keep transaction files open down here. So the Moore sale, Dr. Gordon Moore, these are all the photographs that were taken of his property. Here's his flyer, an exclusive listing agreement. So everything's in there. I've got his flyer right here that I can go ahead and produce at any time. So I keep a file, and that way I don't keep, you can already see my desktop's pretty full, but I keep them here in my transaction files. So, okay, let's do this. Let's go back to our Fuse training. Let's go over here. Let's go into webcam. Make sure you guys can see me. Haven't seen me for a while. There I am. And chat questions. Okay. And yep. Okay, so Lynn, lots of good questions. I appreciate it. Let's see this. I recently learned about possible sewer assessments in the valley. Ooh, fun stuff. You should have seen when they were first happening a few years ago. That was a nightmare. Whose responsibility is it to find out if there's an unpaid assessment, since it won't necessarily show up as a CKI? So yeah, the city basically is converting still everything from septic to sewer in the valley. And we're talking $9,000, $12,000 type assessments. I mean, this is a big deal. It should be recorded at the county level. It's a lien on the property, and it goes with the property. So if the seller is selling it and the buyer doesn't catch it, they're responsible for it. There's no recourse going back to the seller saying, hey, you should have paid this, or you should have done it. You should have had it hooked up. So that's buyer beware right there. Caveat emptor is the Latin for buyer beware. So you want to make sure that they are aware of what's going on, and so check that title report. If you're in the valley, get a copy of the title report, look at it closely, see if there's a lien, and then just use a little common sense. And it's tough, especially when you first get into the market. Like right now, if I had anything in the valley, I would be thinking about that. Like, okay, wait a second, did they take care of the sewer? Are we hooked up to sewer? Are we hooked up to septic? So it can be a painful lesson. And a few years ago, I saw a lot of painful learning going on with that valley sewer assessment. So yeah, just make sure you watch it very closely and check the title report, most importantly. That's where you start. And then just a lot of good common sense questions about what they've done, where are they with that. But yeah, it was very shocking for a lot of new buyers that are like, wait a second, I got to spend $9,000 to get this thing hooked up. So that was a little bit crazy. Okay, that was pretty good, you guys. It's 11:51 Pacific time. We did this sucker in a little less than 2 hours. let's see, we've done pretty much everything I wanted to do with PDF, designing and signing with email electronic signatures. We went through the listing. We went through making an offer, and then the final component, the seller accepting the offer, and all of it was done digitally. And again, we had Alex in Tahiti. I was in Provence sipping wine and throwing baguettes at Americans, and everybody was happy because now we have a consummated transaction. So pretty good stuff. Get used to this. Play with it. Play with the buttons. Push it. Do an experimental offer. Do an experimental listing. Get to know whether it's Transaction Desk or Form Simplicity or whatever other kind of electronic transaction platform you're using. Get to know it. Make your mistakes beforehand so that you don't go in with a client and start making all these mistakes and not really knowing what to do. I empathize with you because I don't like icons. I like words, and I'd rather just have the words so I can read them. But we live in an icon and acronym world, so we just have to kind of all accept it, I guess. That is it. If nobody has any more questions, I thank you for watching this webinar and participating in this webinar, July 12th, 2017, on electronic transactions and e-signatures. We're going to go ahead and record this. We're going to upload it to YouTube, and we'll send it out to everybody so that at your leisure you can look it over and listen to it at home or wherever you are, hopefully in Tahiti or Provence. Hopefully not both. Then we're talking William Wallace type stuff. All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a fantastic week. I am on the road here shortly to the west side of Washington and Oregon, but I will be available for everybody if they need me via cell phone. All right. Signing off. Adios.